This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, Russ Hugo, and welcome back to the I Want to Believe Minute, where we unpick the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. Today, helping me to explore minute 79, running from approximately 78 minutes, and that's where Scully checks the printer, through to 78:59 as Scully calls Mulder's phone, is regular X-Cast guest and friend of the X-Cast. Welcome back, Baz Greenland.
Good to be back.
Fantastic. We were left off at the tense scene. The printer's beeping.
The printer.
I feel like something is going to be a threat. Something really happening. Maybe like one of them HP copy protection issues with the ink cartridge that maybe she bought a generic refill and it's going to get swatted or something. Let's hope that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, printers are terrifying. They're terrifying anyway, aren't they, printers? So they work once and then something goes wrong. And then when it goes wrong, you're like, shit, I might have to get a new printer because they never work again. So, yeah, there's a bit of tension in printers, baby.
That's fair. I mean, think about if half of the plotline for Blood, was it season 2 episode? It could have all just been about printer malfunctions and the stress that it caused people. Speaking of, why did the printer stop here? That's a question I had for you.
I don't know, for dramatic purposes, perhaps. Because it's like it timed out or something, but printers don't do that. So I don't know. Maybe Carter doesn't really know how printers work. I don't know. It's not like she put in some more paper. You know, it's like there's no paper jam because we'd be talking a whole minute of her just trying to adjust the paper, so that would be quite dull. And but there's paper in the machine, so she just presses a button and it continues. I don't know. It feels maybe a little bit contrived for dramatic purposes, maybe.
Maybe it was the printer was off and had to wake it up or something. But I just thought it was kind of funny that this transitional drama and it's hit the red button, turns green, and then we start getting very large photos of dog heads. And this is a question I had for you. Coming back to your earlier comment in the previous minute, and even here, using the word contrived, I did feel this was in the sense that my understanding is she hadn't read the article until the previous scene, meaning that she had printed out not only the article before she read it, but then she had printed out all of the photos from the article in extremely large size without knowing if it would be useful.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I mean, Scully's a medical doctor. She's a scientist. She knows her stuff. And it's a little bit like, I've gone on stem cell research and printed. I've gone on the internet and printed stem cell research. Click, print. Stem cell research. Click, print, and just printed everything like a madman or madwoman, and not really kind of done a little bit of a kind of a cursory read over the articles before she clicked print. It feels that maybe that's a little bit out of character for Scully. There's no sense of kind of investigation there. She's gone print anything that comes up on the internet. Well, who knows what she could have printed? But they were saying that I guess the pictures of the dogs are pretty nasty anyway. The two-headed dog.
It's great visually, so I understand why they do it. It's just funny to imagine her not having read the article yet, but I'm going to print this article, I'm going to scroll down really quick, and then click on each of these images, and then print them at full page size. And then somehow I put it away because it's odd, because again, my understanding is that she probably printed this beforehand because she had just walked in the office, and that was there. She had then printed the article, it had printed successfully, put it in the folder, started printing the dog head photos, and then left. And the printer failed, comes back in, and then starts the printer, and then the dog head photos come out. Overthinking it, but that's what we do for these minutes.
Yeah, maybe. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it's very atmospherically done, I think. So we'll go with that, shall we?
Yes, and the dog head photos are great fun. Like, and you notice that there's two different kinds of dogs. Heads are fused, which it's cute. It's a little campy, but it's also
it's
effective. It's not just
Yeah.
I think it's fun because, I mean, they can't go... This film is very dark in a lot of ways with a lot of subject matter, and it doesn't have a lot of supernatural aspects, so to inject a little creature camp like that, particularly later because you don't get a great view of the dog when you see it, this is our one chance to do it. It's fun. I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the picture of the actual just severed dog head is probably a bit more gruesome. I think the actual two-headed dog, you're right, I think when they do come to it later in the movie, it's very much in shadow because you can't really do a two-headed dog. I'm just thinking of the first Harry Potter movie now with a three-headed dog, I don't know. But it's probably one you can't do in kind of bright light. So... yeah, it's campy. But X-Files is campy, isn't it? Even when it kind of goes dark and serious and gritty, there are camp moments in the show. Like Tombs is a great example. I still love to this very day Screes and Tombs. And they're dark and nasty, but they're also camp as hell. And it's great. I love how camp Tombs is as a character when he's attacking. So I think X-Files always does kind of toe that line between a bit of camp and a bit silly and a bit over the top with that kind of dark, gritty kind of realism as well. So, I mean, they work. Again, it kind of, the whole sequence, when it focuses on experiments and rush on dogs that happen, there's all kind of converging into the X-File. So in the last episode we just did. But, there's a bit of a coincidence here as the two storylines converge, and suddenly Scully, who has resisted being part of this case, this X-File, is suddenly pulled into it through research with Christian as well. So a little bit of contrived, but I think it's still quite well done.
I agree. Yeah. And now Scully, slightly panicked, starts calling Mulder, and we hear Mulder's voicemail, which has the fun little Easter egg of "it's me." And obviously he is not answering. But I did want to talk about, Anderson's performance, the delivery of the word dogs that she does, doing it on dogs. If you watch it again, there's a musicality to it that I really appreciate. Finally, for one of the things jumped out to me, I'd love your take, is we talk about things that might be contrived or coincidental. The idea that Scully so strongly states that the FBI agent is alive at this point is a bit much for me when I'm watching it in this pace, going through the minute and you think about it. I think it works for keeping up the energy and the momentum of the show, of the film and the narrative, but on its own, it's a bit quick for this shift to happen, for Scully to make this connection. For me, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I kind of agree. It's the idea this dead FBI agent is alive, and the experiments are now being done on humans as well as dogs, and the way it all kind of comes together, it feels like, as we said, she kind of glossed over some articles on stem cell research, click, didn't really read them and gone, oh my God, I've connected the dots. This is what the plot of the movie is about. And it does feel like it comes really, really quickly. And, because actually I was surprised actually this movie wasn't as long as I thought it was. It goes quite quickly. And this is probably the point when Mulder's kind of pushed off into the snow in the car and Scully discovers these experiments. This is kind of the point really where I think the film kind of kicks into another gear and becomes properly X-File-y. Maybe because you've got Scully involved as well. And obviously, you've got Skinner coming up very soon as well. So it does feel like there's an energy that's kicking off here, going into the kind of final act of the movie. So, yeah, it's a little bit contrived, but I guess it kind of works as well because what I really like as well is, yes, this is a key exposition moment, but it's the way when Scully is talking to Mulder on the phone. I like how it kind of, it's not just Scully in the hallway talking to Mulder. It's kind of intercut with the crashed car in the snow. So it kind of adds a bit of tension and a bit of grit and the kind of, Mulder's not going to die, but, Mulder's in this, as I said, deep, cold snow and ice. His life's in danger here. The car, you can hear the howl of the wind and the snow to the music as well. It's all really effectively done, and with the intensity of Anderson's performance as well. I think it kind of glosses over the fact that a little bit that it's, yes, I'm leaping to a big point here. This is the plot of the movie. This is the exposition moment. But because of the way the film is edited together, with the juxtaposition of Scully's intensity and Mulder's crash car, I think again it kind of works. And maybe I'm being a bit generous with some of this stuff. We talk about the printer and this, but I think, yeah, pick it apart, it doesn't really make much sense. But visually, aesthetically, audibly, it does work.
I think you summed that up nicely. Again, we're focusing on the minutia because this is the minute. But if we take it in, as you note, in the entire scheme, the entire scope of the film, and we look at this act transition, but we also look at the pacing and the way that the characters have been interacting up until then, and the tension between Scully and Mulder. A lot of films that do reboots like this play the same role, where they break up the band at the beginning, and then the film is watching the band get together. But I think what works really well for this film is the band doesn't necessarily get back together. They might do a short gig in the sense, but it's not the same act. And there is a respect for the characters. That's one thing I really like about the film, that Scully's autonomy and agency as being a medical doctor and being able to maintain that continues to the end of the film. The final shot of the film is that. But here is that moment where the connection is made, where she's able to transition, holding on to that space where she's not leaving that space, but she's going to transition for the moment to save Mulder and then come back. So we get this justified, I think. I mean, again, it's coincidental the way that the transition is made, but like you noted, it does help with the pacing and the energy. So in the scheme of things, considering what options they had and the timing and the shape of the story, the shape of the script is one thing I like about it, that it just has a different pace and a feel to it. Then think of Fight the Future. It goes from set piece to set piece, and they're sort of connected, but they're very discrete, like you're in an amusement park, traveling from here to here to here. And I want to believe, again, being more character-based, you're really in this dark space, whether with Billy Connolly's character or with the abductors or with Scully. And everything's kind of disconnected for the most part, but it's very dry. And then right here we get this classic, finally, Scully is about to yell into the phone. We're finally getting this energy in the action piece with the car going over the cliff. And I agree. It is a nice transition.
It is, and I think, just what you're saying as well. I think whereas Fight the Future is the X-Files died up another notch, died up to 10 with big set pieces. The chase for the cornfields, the bees, the Antarctica. Loads of sequences which feel really big and have spectacle. And I can see why they did that. I think that's why people found this movie quite disappointing. But I think that's why this is a little bit underrated. And this is a movie that you come to appreciate the more you watch it, because it's things like Scully's agency. I actually, watching it again, thinking about it, really appreciated that, particularly in light of the fact there's more X-Files to come later on, it allows Scully to be Scully. And she's very real and true to herself throughout this movie. She's not pulled back in because of... she wants to be on the X-Files. Ultimately, she's pulled back in because she's found a clue for Mulder to help him, and then he's missing. And then it's almost a search. It's a search for Mulder, not search for the X-File. And so I like the fact that she does stay this doctor. She's referred to as Dr. Scully. She's not an FBI agent at any point in this movie. The fact that the film ends with Scully doing the surgery as a doctor, not as an FBI agent or anything else. It's very much... she retains who she is throughout this entire movie, and that's quite a brave thing to do. So I like how her motivation moving forward from this point is about helping Mulder, and obviously then helping the girl when she gets involved with Skinner later on, and they find the victim, and so she's as a doctor she plays a role, but she plays a role as a doctor again, in saving the girl who's being experimented on. So she retains it throughout this entire film. And I think that's quite a brave choice to do. I don't know if it's possibly as well because I know Carter had plans for a third film that didn't materialise. I think he decided to save the big alien invasion stuff for a third film that never actually happened. But he kind of allows himself to go down that kind of slightly more darker, gritty, more morose X-File that this is. This is in the vein of Beyond the Sea. Aesthetically, there's not a huge difference between Beyond the Sea and this film. which is quite startling, which is why it feels quite low key for a film, but actually has its own identity. So yeah, I think there's a momentum here with Scully. It gives her agency, but she still stays Scully the Doctor throughout.
Fantastic. And with that, we'll be back to cover minute 80 very soon. But until then, always remember, trust no one.